going to be doing an oil change on my wife's 2010 Prius. So I will go through all the steps on how to do this. It's very similar to other Toyotas, but there's a few little quirks that this car has that some of the other cars that I have don't. So we're going through all this today, and hopefully it'll help some other Prius owners out there that would like to learn how to change their own oil and save some money. So we'll go ahead and get started. I do have it up on the ramps already, so I'll gather all my goodies and we'll go from there. All right, so for this car, these are the tools that I use. Obviously, anything you need your oil for, you need your filter. I typically use Toyota OEM filters, but I got such a great deal on these K&N ones that I bought a half dozen of them at the time, and they were about the same price as the OEM ones, so I went with them, and they're synthetic. So you need a 14mm wrench to loosen the drain plug. The Prius actually has an engine cover underneath the whole thing, so you have to take off a few tabs, and then there's an area of it that folds out. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt. I wish that it completely removed, but it doesn't on this one. You can remove the whole entire undercover, and I do that if I'm also changing the CVT fluid, but for an oil change I don't bother. Need a new gasket for the drain plug, and obviously something to drain the oil into. So have a couple rags on hand too, and ready to roll. So we'll go ahead and get under the car and start draining. Okay, so underneath the car, here is the flap that I was telling you about. It actually folds right here, which would be better if it folded in the back, to fold it away, because you fold it and it's kind of in the way. But there are 3 different plastic pieces that I've got to pop off. So we'll pop those off, and I'll fold this back, and then it exposes the drain plug. So I'll do that next. So it is now loose, and you can kind of see how it, pull back a little bit here, how it folds down. So in the winter, I actually kind of warm up the plastic with a heat gun so it bends. But here, you can see it exposes everything that we need to get to. So I'll go ahead and attach this up so it stays out of the way, and we'll start draining oil. So I tend to find this is a very easy solution. I just grab a bungee cord, loop it through there, and then through the grill. And it just holds it up and out of the way for me. And that way, I can get this under there. And get the oil draining. So there's our plug right there. So go ahead and get that going. All right, so oil is draining. So we'll let that drain out. And there's the filter on the far side. This uses one of those canister filters, which not a big deal, but I still prefer the spin-on type. So I'll go ahead and rotate that off here in just a minute as soon as most of the oil is out. So I forgot to show earlier, you actually need a tool like this for these cars that have a canister filter, and this fits right around it. These slots right here fit into and around the fingers on it, and it's very important that you do get this seated properly. But use this with a socket and a socket wrench, and it spins off pretty easily. If you are doing this for the first time on these cars, there is a small tab that from the factory is pushed in to prevent the canister from backing off. It's not going to back off, so I never push that tab back onto it. So just a little tip about that. And if you're doing it for the first time from the dealer, they put these things on really tight, way tighter than they should. So I've had times where I needed to actually get up my breaker bar to loosen it. So don't tighten it that tight. It's just not necessary. So you can see how the adapter there fits over on the canister to get it off. And just once you get it seated and seated all the way, you can also see the little tab there that I was talking about. So you can see how it's pulled back and it clears it. It's designed so that it hits one of the ridges on the cap and it prevents it from turning off. But I just bent it back the first time and that's all I do. So now go ahead and loosen the filter cover and we'll change the filter. All right, so the filter right here. So this is real easy. So here's a better shot of the cap that works. So think of this as the metal skin normally on a spin-on. So the filter, you just take that, it's real nice and easy, and it just pushes around on there and it will stay on there. It doesn't fall off or anything. So, and then you can see the old rubber gasket here. It's just a big O-ring gasket. So this one comes off and there is a new one that comes with a filter to put onto it. So I always dip my finger in the new oil and just run oil around it to make sure that it seals properly, and that's all there is to it. Then once that's done, once you put the new seal on, it's just a matter of spinning it back on. So we'll go ahead and do that. So to get this off, anything can, a small screwdriver or a pick or anything like that. So just insert it underneath it and then kind of go around. And then once it's off, you can kind of just roll it off and it will slide right over. So the old one is off. Let me oil up this new one. I just dip my finger in the new container of oil that I open, and I just kind of run it around it just to get it nice and lubricated. Then all I do is stick it around it and just roll it around. Now it goes in this large gap there. Make sure you don't put it in the threads, and don't put it down here where this kind of seats up. So it goes in the large gap between it. And if you're not sure, just look at your old one before you take it off until you're familiar with that. So, and now this is ready to go back on. So we'll just spin it on, snug it up, put the drain plug back in, and add the oil. And this is why I do this way too. So I start draining the oil right away, and I also loosen the filler cap so that you don't create any kind of vacuum and it flows out better. But by doing this, the oil is draining, and by the time you get done with the filter and ready to put it back on, you're ready. Usually the oil is finished draining, and you can go ahead and just finish up underneath and come back up and top off, and you're done. It's just not that hard to do. It's a pretty quick, painless job, even though this one does have the extra step of having to remove the flat cover there. So we'll go ahead and go underneath and spin this back on. All right, so back underneath, you can see where the oil filter threads onto, and we still have a slow drip, not that big a deal. Most of it's out. So I always take a rag and I wipe around. Reach it that way. Let's see if I can do it this way. So I just clean up any oil there. So, and this is another thing I want to mention. You can see the old gasket is still on where it's dripping oil from the drain plug. So I always pop that off. Don't ever put a new one on with the old one still on, because if you double gasket it, it will leak. So make sure you get the old one off. If you don't see it come off with the drain plug, make sure you look at that. And I just take my any standard small flathead screwdriver or something like that and a little bit of pressure on the side and it pops right loose. So let's see if I can reach my screwdriver. There we go. So I'll kind of show you there. So there you go. So it pops off pretty easily. So now we'll take our filter. What I need to do is find something that I can use to hold my camera while I'm under here. So, oh, I lost my light. So, I just thread that on. And I get my tool out and I tighten it up. So I'll go ahead and tighten it up and we'll put the cover back on and go up top. So there's the canister back attached and I snug it down and you'll feel it. Okay, all buttoned up. So back up top here, get yourself a funnel. I have 2 different funnels that I use. I always use these 2 just for clean oil. The Prius, it's a little close to the cowl there, so this one that I normally use doesn't quite get in there and make a mess with that. So I got this elongated one that I use for this. So I'll find a funnel that works and use that. Like I said, I always keep just clean oil in it. I wipe it out every time, but I never have to worry about any kind of contaminants on it. And go from there. Fill it up. This car takes 4.4 quarts. So I'll go ahead and pour that in and we'll be finished. I won't bore you with pouring oil because I'm sure you all know how to do that. So anyway, that takes care of it on the Prius. So hope this helps some people out there. Thank you for watching and I appreciate your support. So hit that subscribe button. Thank you much.